Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to Season 6, opening up with our pre-season race, once again with our third group of the week. Here with our Noasis Division 1 group. Yeah, well-deserved break that we had, as I mentioned earlier in Tier 2. Uh, we had Tier 2 a couple hours ago, so feel free to take a look and give that video a like and subscribe in case you haven't yet. But give me one good second. I do believe we might have a few more drivers joining in. Just looking at my DMs. All right, anyways. So yes, Gnosis Division, one of our purest and most demanding categories of our league. Drivers who race with no aids whatsoever, including no racing line. So extremely talented drivers, this group. We do have quite a small group today. Of course, it's only pre-season. I'm actually surprised our tiers were actually having a pretty large group. I think tier 1 we had a full grid, tier 2 18 drivers, so looks like they were more eager to get back onto the track than our noses drivers. A few complaining about the track, which I can see from Andy's point of view. The sun is blazing, but Andy crossing the line puts in a 1:33.4. Our first driver to put in a time. We do have a couple of drivers behind as well. I do want to give a bit of a shout out to a couple of our new drivers. Velocity Mick in the Aston Martin on his debut with the league. And we also have Fate in the Mercedes as well. Fate, who actually just accepted a full-time seat in that team, so he will be the Yuppie's teammate. The Yuppie and Mamu, I'm not exactly sure what happened to them today. Did check in, so I'm assuming with the time change, Mamu probably slept in. So that is understandable. I will say that. Apex, a 133.3, a tenth away from his teammate Mini Tony crossing the line as well. So we are curious to see what the newcomers to the league are able to do. So Velocity Mick, looking at Ricky Stanicki. Velocity Mick putting in his hot lap at the moment. And I know Relativity was having a bit of trouble trying to join into the server. So let me see if he was hopefully able to restart the game. And let me see if I sent him another invite. I know way too many people. And there we go. Alrighty. So our only two drivers who are currently out on the track, the Aston Martin of Velocity Mick, Dragon Pengus in the Haas this season. And so Velocity Mick going around the final corners, keeping the car on rails. Keeping it nice and tight on the corner. Ooh, a little bit of a snap it seems, but puts in a 133.6, 2/10 away from the McLaren of Andy. And Dragon Pengus, who seems to have invalidated his lap time. But we do have quite a number of drivers who have returned for this season. A few who aren't here today, choosing to start next week for the actual race. Of course, as we mentioned, this is just preseason. No points are made in this race, and honestly, it's only just really a warm-up for a majority of the drivers. And also I get a chance to get to know the others, the new ones as well, the racecraft on the track. Alrighty, but we do have, as I mentioned, a few returning drivers. MacT, one of them now in the Ferrari, which if I'm not mistaken, he was in the Ferrari 2 seasons ago. So, and I think it was his is one of his top choices. He did have second pick in the draft. I think it was actually his first choice, the Ferrari team. And representing the Lewis Hamilton helmet as well. I do know he's a big Hamilton fan. And a few drivers who have been a bit back and forth with between Division 1 and 2. Mini Tony, now this season in Division 1, Relativity as well. Both of them doing a really respectable uh, job, having offered the Division Two seats to newcomers and moving over to the Division One group. And I do see that Relativity's having a bit of trouble. EA, unfortunately, really giving him issues. Let me see if hopefully I can help him resolve that a little bit. So yeah, so Relativity, unfortunately, not able to accept an invite. Did restart his game, so hopefully, yeah, no, EA being EA, but staying on board with the Mercedes of Fate. Using plenty of battery on the back straight. And let me see if I can send him another invite. So I think this is the hardest part with this division. A majority of the drivers are PC. So it looks like a lot of them have troubles trying to get some of the invites. And there we go. Okay. Alrighty, so quite a number of drivers who have yet to put in a lap time. Fate going on the final corner puts the throttle down really well. Puts in a 1:33.2, holding provisional pole at the moment. We do have Mac T, one of our drivers to always take a look at. Phenomenal pace and phenomenal consistency as well. And as I say that, unfortunately, invalidates his lap time, so that is not going to count. We do have his teammate, who is a newcomer as well, starting on his debut in the league, Sayo, in the Ferrari as Maxi's teammate. Curious to see what he's able to do as well. We do have our Manson up ahead. And so our Manson, a 134.1, puts himself in 5th at the moment. Oh, Sayo, looks like he had a little bit of a lockup right there. I think that may have been Andy who has left the session. So let me see if I can get him back in. So yeah, just keeping a little bit. Yeah, I'm just keeping a little bit of a lookout on our Discord chat just to make sure all the drivers are able to join in. If they have disconnected, then that way they could just message me. Oh, Sayo cutting the corner right there, invalidating his lap time. He's going to put in a 1:36.9. Dragon Pengus in Sector 1. So as I mentioned, we are here in the Circuit of the Americas, here in COTA, Austin, Texas. And just going over the track very briefly. It is a 5.5 kilometer track, 20 corners, 11 left-handers, 9 right-handers. We do have a number of elevation changes here on this track. 2 DRS zones. One of them we see right here with Dragon Pengus in the back straight, right before turn 12, and the other one heading into turn 1. Oh, Dragon Pengus invalidating his lap time. And if you have a feeling, we're going to be seeing this quite often, a lot of that red track right there on the corner. Do have, it seems, Velocity Mick, who is going around on a banker lap. Most likely trying to get some temperatures on those tires. And looks like Relativity looking to restart his game. So here's hoping this next time it does work. Definitely know how frustrating that can be. Let's see. And looks like Mini Tony hasn't validated his lap time as well, so going around on a banker lap. 4 drivers who have yet to put in a time, that is Dragon Pengus, Ultron, Mac T, and Sayo. We do have Velocity Mick. Is he going to be going back into the pit lane? Yes, he is. And we do have our current pole holder, Fate, in the Mercedes on his outlap, looking to improve even further. Only a tenth away from Apex Agent. And looks like I actually invited the wrong driver. Might have been the McLaren of Apex who disconnected. So there we go. Anyways, Fate starting his outlap here in Sector 1. Oh, and invalidating that one, but I do wonder if that invalidated the next one. Yep, it did. So Fate having to go around it once again. We do have Mac T who is out on his outlap as well. Atron reserving from Division 2, trying to get some practice in preparation for the race on Wednesday. And so keeping an eye on Andy. Andy currently up 2/10 it seems after Sector 1. Does put in a purple for Sector. Really rocking that chrome livery. So we do have Mac T who is about to start his lap. A really quick driver. We'll be taking a quick look at him. So Mac T in Sector 1 on the main straight does have the flap open. Now heading into the massive elevation of Blind Apex here in turn 1. It does seem like that's yellow flags. I believe that's the Aston Martin of Velocity Mick. But Mac T continuing forward from turns 2 through 9, the S's, the famous S's inspired by the Silverstone S's. But Andy putting in a 1:33.0. Mac T had put in a purple first sector. And now Mac T on the back straight, the first DRS zone here. Where honestly we'll be seeing the majority of the battles if the grid stays close to each other. I do have the heavy braking of turn 12. Mac T keeping it tight. Keeping the car on the rails. So Mac T looking like he's going to put in a solid lap time here in turn 6 through 18. Has to be really cautious on this corner. Does really well not to invalidate. It's a very common area to pick up penalties. But Mac T here on the final corner puts in the battery, puts in a 1:31.4, 2/10 away. Sorry, 2 seconds away from Andy. So I think we do have his main contenders for this season, MK7 Hitch and Moikuli, who has decided to join in this season. Moikuli, I can understand him not being here, having declined the check-in. He is in Finland, so the hours are very late for him. Actually, no, very early for him. And so with the daylight savings, it does seem like it's I think it's an hour earlier for Moikuli. So of course he's he's not gonna want to wake up earlier. Oh, it looks like Relativity is actually asking for another invite. Let me just get him in. Hopefully, praying to the F1 gods or the EA gods that he's able to join into the session. And so finishing up the qualifying session, looks like we do have a few drivers who have already crossed the checker flag for their time. We do have only one driver who has yet to put in a time. That is Sayo in the Ferrari. Does have a driver right in front of him. And looks like that is Macti, his teammate, giving him a little bit of a slipstream. So Sayo keeping it nice and tight on that turn 12 and puts in a purple second sector. So it looks like he is going to put in a pretty decent time. However, actually it looks like he does. Ooh, going a little bit wide right there, but Macti disqualified for going the wrong way. Probably doing a bit of donuts there on on sector 2. And so Sayo crossing the line at 135.5. Looks like that purple second sector was probably mostly due to the fact that he hadn't put in a time prior to that. But we do have Andy, who is going to be holding pole at the moment after MacT disqualifying. Most likely looking for a last of first challenge, especially with that pace. It looks like we're just waiting on our Manson. There we go. Okay, so our starting grid for COTA for the preseason. We do have Andy starting on pole position, sharing the front row. We have Fate in the Mercedes. In the second row, we do have Andy's teammate, Apex Agent, holding third, fourth, Ultron, Velocity, Mick in fifth, Armanson sixth, Dragon Pengus seventh, Ricky Stanicki eighth, Mini Tony ninth, Sayo 10th, Macti, who had pole position but disqualified for going the wrong way, now in 11th. So that is going to be our starting grid. Unfortunate for Relativity, who wasn't able to join in. Looks like, yeah, looks like it's definitely an EA problem. But a big reminder to all the drivers on the grid, also those who are watching for the first time, we like to give the drivers about 3 to 5 minutes to really uh, prepare themselves for the race, adjust any fuels, just any tweaks to their setups or the strategies. I think the grand majority of the drivers already know uh, about that rule, considering a lot of them are returning from last season. Uh, and those who are new, well, we told you to read the rule book. Ooh, but it does look like looks like Apex Agent is trying to join back into the session. So let me see if hopefully I could send him another invite. And regarding the strategies, so honestly, one-stop strategy, in my opinion, can definitely go medium to hards. Some I have seen in the past go hards to mediums. Of course, everybody's different. Everybody's pace is different. And just making sure to see that Apex Agent is fine with joining back into the session. So this is also partially why we like to give a little bit of a break in case some of our drivers lagged out or disconnected. So it gives us a bit of time to coordinate and hopefully have them back in. And as we always like to remind our drivers, turn one for the love of God, for our sanity, for our steward's sanity. Please make sure to be careful on that first corner. And as I mentioned in Tier 2, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a few incidents. We even see them in real life between those two McLarens. It was a very interesting race, I will say that. Alrighty, so it looks like Apex Agent is trying, or looks like he is going to be joining into the session. Do like to remind him to be a little bit careful uh, in taking control of the car, especially the AI. Can be a bit unpredictable. Alrighty, so they do have the ready up. Looks like a grand majority I see starting on the mediums. I'm gonna take this down in case they want to change it up a little bit, but we have seen quite a few times where drivers wait for the spectator to remove it. So we should be hearing the timer anytime soon. There we go. And 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and we're keeping an eye here on Apex Agent. Actually, take a quick look at Atron, who actually has a phenomenal start right there. Bring this all up. And Andy actually losing the lead to Fate. Fate having actually gotten the overtake done prior to the corner and getting ahead. R. Manson picking up a little bit of a battle with Atron. Bit of side-by-side racing between these two. Oh, a little bit of contact between the two wheels, and so R. Manson having to join back onto the track. Gets right ahead of Agent. And finally, some really good camera views from this game. We do have MacT, who has picked up a couple positions right there, up 3 positions now. And it looks like he is looking to make another move, getting past R. Manson. That is the Williams of Atron who is facing backwards, and MacT doing a phenomenal job to get out or get away from him. MacT getting the move done on R. Manson as well. Like I mentioned earlier, MacT, a driver to watch, does get the overtakes done nice and cleanly. We do have a couple of action happening in the front as well. Ricky Stanicki up 4 positions. And we do have MacT right on the tail of Dragon Pangus, looking to get that overtake done. So very unfortunate for Atron, who has lost multiple positions. Apex Agent, who I think is AI trying to take control, lost a couple of positions right there in the beginning, but we do have Ricky Stanicki, who is right on the back of Velocity Mick. Oh, a bit of contact between MacT and Dragon Pengus, but didn't have the perfect view to really see what happened, but a little bit of contact. MacT up another position right there in 5th, and looking at the tire strategy, so it looks like the grand majority, pretty much all of them, have started on the medium tires. Apex Agent, I believe, may have had a little bit of damage there at the start, having taken control of his car, so very unfortunate for him, having to pit now on to the hard compounds. We do have DRS enabled, and so Ricky Stanicki right on the back of Velocity Mick is able to get the move done, and MacT looking to make the move done as well. But MacT trying to go for a 2-for-1 special, and looks like is going to get the overtake on the kick sauber of Ricky Stanicki as well. Velocity Mick going on the outside. And now on the inside, Velocity Mick gaining another position right there. So really good driving by these drivers, giving each other enough space. I think especially in these 2 divisions, in both Division 1 and 2, I think they appreciate the wheel-to-wheel racing a lot more than the other groups, in my opinion. Well, let's see, we do have Dragon Pengus right on the tail of R. Manson. Dragon Pengus trying to put the throttle down, not able to get alongside and get the move done on R. Manson there, but Still keeping it quite close. Fate in the Mercedes over a second and a half, actually 1.3 seconds ahead of the McLaren of Andy. Andy does have Mac T, who is a man on a mission, trying to charge up the grid. And up ahead, Ricky Stanicki getting the pass on Velocity Mick. Actually, looks like Ricky Stanicki with the DRS, and so he is going to stay ahead of the Aston Martin. So a little bit of a battle between these two, and Mick going on the inside. Is he going to get the attack on the Kick Sauber? Looks like we have a bit of a battle in the back as well. Looks like Ricky Stanicki going a little bit wide right there, and so the Aston Martin going right through. So even for a small grid, I will say they're doing a phenomenal job to really keep the racing going. Trying to keep track of all of the battles here. And I think team-wise as well. So the Ferrari is looking pretty good today. Sayo looking to get the move done on R. Manson. So gets the move done and is up to 7th. So looking at the position changes, Mac T up 8 positions, Ricky Stanicki up 3, Sayo up 3 as well. And looks like we got our first penalty out. So that is Andy into the McLaren picking up a 3-second penalty. He does have Mac T right on the back of him. However, it does look like the battling between Ricky Stanicki. Oh, Ricky Stanicki losing the car right there. Commentator's curse. Again. Ricky Stanicki, dropping down quite a number of positions right there. Very unfortunate for him. And up ahead, Dragon Pengus trying to get the attack on Velocity right there. And Mini Tony getting the move done on our Manson. But as I say that, our Mini Tony from the back of Dragon Pengus's view going a little bit wide right there. And so our Manson is going to steal back that position. So as we mentioned in our prior race in Tier 2, tire management is really important on this track. We did see one driver in Tier 1 get a puncture, so definitely have to keep it really, really simple on this track. Try avoiding the overuse on those tires. But we have seen a number of these drivers take the mediums to 15 laps, right? Actually, no, sorry, not 15 laps, 10 to 12 laps probably. Ooh, a little bit of contact between the Haas and the Aston Martin right there. And it looks like Mac T has caught up to the back of Fate. So Mac T from last to first within these first 5 laps, getting the overtake on Fate and now leading the race. And it looks like Sayo trying to get the move done as well on the inside of Velocity. Mick does get the move done. But Velocity Mick trying to keep the position as well. I think that was a little bit of contact between Ferrari and of Sayo and Mick. Have a couple of close racing in the back as well. Our Manson looks to have made the move on Mini Tony. And so yeah, as I was saying, yeah, last season I'm looking at the pit stops. So yeah, a couple of drivers having taken the mediums about 15 laps, lowest 12 laps I think, 12, 13 laps actually on those mediums. Then switching over to the hard compounds. It is a small group, so safety cars, very low possibility right there. do have Sayo, who is now right on the back of Dragon Pengus. Ooh, Velocity Mick almost hitting the rear end of the Ferrari right there. So they are going to be having the DRS on this next upcoming back straight. Mini Tony going on the inside of our Manson there. So both of them giving each other enough space. I think, yeah, our Manson is going to have the DRS. So that's going to help him pull away. Sayo in the front getting the move done on Dragon Pengus. So really close battling between the middle pack right here. We do have Fate, who is still less than a second behind of MacT. Oh, Velocity Mick now picking up a 3-second penalty, cutting the corner a little bit too much, going on the inside there. And so we only have 2 drivers with penalties. That is Andy and Velocity Mick, both with 3 seconds of penalties. Ooh, and that is Dragon Pengus going up for the switchback. And our Manson getting the position as well, although it looks like our Manson breaking a little bit early there. And so Mini Tony trying to go for the gap, and unfortunately going a little bit wide right there, but all the drivers still giving each other enough space. Although it looks like we do have a couple of drivers who were going a little bit alongside right there. Now back to single file formation. But our Manson going a tad bit wide in the S's, and does he actually have damage? No, it looks like... No, for a second it looked like he was missing his end plate. I know all the drivers keeping the car steady. We do have Velocity Mick, who is going to have the DRS on Dragon Pengus, however, not enough battery to really gain anything. Do have Mini Tony going on the inside, and not the game giving me the cockpit view. So quite a bit of battling between these two. Mini Tony going a little bit wide, but our Manson looks like he lost a little bit of that traction there, and so Ricky Stanicki going right through. So we still have plenty of drivers who are still within less than a second behind of each other. And I am curious to see who is going to be the first driver to pull the trigger and go enter the pit lane. Apex Agent, I will say, keeping his head down. I know he had a little bit of trouble joining back into the session, and unfortunately, I think having taken control of the car in the first lap, got into a little incident. But still keeping his head down. You never know if a safety car will come out and bring you back into the race. And of course, like we said, this is just preseason, so it's also a little bit of a warm-up if you haven't raced in this whole month. Let's see, we do have a few drivers who have pushed the other out of the DRS. Velocity Mick going a tad bit wide right there, so Mini Tony trying to use that to his advantage, staying really close behind the Aston Martin. Does have Ricky Stanicki right on the back of him, as well as our Manson. And so we do have MacT entering the pits in the front. Mini Tony going on the inside, trying to get the move done on the Aston Martin there. Going a little bit of a lockup, and going a little bit wide right there, but still keeping the car straight. And so Mini Tony now with fresh air right in front of him. Velocity Mick having pit, possibly looking for that undercut, and so MacT is going to come out ahead of his teammate. And now Apex Agent picking up a 3-second penalty. So now we have We have 3 drivers now with penalties. So that is Velocity, Mick, Apex Agent, and Andy. So Mac T choosing to pit early now on a fresh set of hard compounds, most likely going to take those tires all the way to the end. To have our Manson right on the back of the Alpine of Mini Tony, our very own Colapinto, our Argentinian friend. But our Manson getting the move done on Mini Tony. And Mini Tony trying to pick up a little bit of a battle right there. Looks like not able to get any move done to regain that position. And I will say Atron, who was facing backwards in lap 1, doing a really good job to stay with the grid. So less than a second behind of Ricky Stanicki. So he's in the DRS train. So a few drivers who were complaining about the grid being small, getting their battles in still. Anyways, Andy currently 10 seconds ahead of Mac T, who has pit already. So Andy and Fate, who have still yet to change their tires. Velocity Mick now picking up another 3-second penalty. So that's 6 seconds for the Aston Martin there. So do have Mini Tony climbing up the grid and getting the move done on our Mansons. Has been a bit of a battle between these 3, including Ricky Stanicki. However, I'm curious to see if Fatron is going to be able to join the battle and try going for some moves. And now looks like Mini Tony has pushed out our Manson from the DRS. So our Manson losing the DRS here on this next upcoming straight. He is going to be vulnerable against Ricky Stanicki, who is going to have the flap open soon. However, it doesn't look like he has enough battery to really go for the attack, staying still close right behind the the V-carb. And as I say that, gets a little bit too close. And yeah, it looks like Ricky Stanicki showing a bit of sportsmanship there, letting our Madsen pass. Yeah, a little bit of a mistake right there, but we do appreciate the respect between the drivers. Fortunately, racing is racing. Stuff like that happens. And as I mentioned earlier, we have seen worse, especially in real life. So, but I don't think Ricky Stanicki picked up any damage. Neither of them picked up any damage. So both of them still have the cars intact. Ricky Stanicki going for the move on the outside. Our Manson trying to defend the inside. Ricky Stanicki going a little bit wide right there, but he is going to have the DRS. So gets the move done, gets the pass on the V-carb there for P8. And up ahead we do have Mini Tony, who is closing in on the back of Dragon Pengus. Up ahead, Fate in the Mercedes, who is currently leading the race, choosing to pit now and opt for the hard compounds. Mac T staying up ahead. I'm curious to see what the gap is going to be between those two drivers. Looks like it's about 7 seconds between Mac T and Fate. Less than 7 seconds. Actually, no, going back to 7.6. And looks like yeah, so Mamu Mamu unfortunately falling asleep just sent a message that he just woke up. So like I said, I understand with the whole daylight savings change. I don't know if it affected you, but yeah, no. Anyways, this is just preseason. We just like to see all the drivers back onto the track, and also serves as a little bit of a evaluation for us admins and stewards, just to make sure all the drivers are upholding still our standards of racing, which we have seen a lot of good racing today, even for a small group. But Mini Tony trying to get the move on the inside. Can he stop the car? And no, he can't. Overshoots it a little bit. And so Dragon Pengus remaining ahead of Mini Tony. So Mini Tony having to keep careful there of one, the braking, and two, the tires. And so we do have Andy who has chosen to pit now. And if I were probably Mini Tony, I'd probably pit as well. Whoa, Mini Tony going wide right there. And looks like Dragon Pengus having the same idea. Mini Tony. Jesus Christ. Mini Tony almost going into the barrier right there. So I think, unfortunately, I think that's going to have him lose a little bit of time behind the Haas. But honestly, incredible save. Jeez, a little bit of a heart attack for me, but alrighty. But we do have the McLaren of Apex who has come out of the pits. Or actually, no, sorry, hasn't pit yet. Right behind Sayo, who's just coming out of the pits. So Sayo with the fresh set of hard compounds is going to take a lap or two for them to really heat up. But don't think it's much pressure for him considering Apex also has that 3-second penalty. But it does look like that little incident in the pit lane did cause Mini Tony to lose a little bit of time. 2.7 seconds behind a Dragon Pengus. Less than 2.5 seconds, but yeah, still plenty of race left. We still have more than half the race to go, and yeah, you never know what could happen. It's like Mini Tony's eating up a bit of time. So the only drivers who have yet to pit is Autron. And actually, I take it back. Apex Agent did pit, however, he did pit in the first lap. So yeah, those 11 lap old hearts are going to be a little bit miserable at the end. But Atron, our final driver who has yet to pit, now going in. Dragon Pengus now picking up a 3-second penalty. And so if I were Mini Tony, I'd try closing in on Dragon Pengus, but taking it a bit of easier there. But Apex Agent, ooh, going a little bit wide, and I think that was I think he may have overshot it a little bit, and seems like he slowed down a bit to let the Ferrari through as well. So yeah, I mean we're seeing a little bit of very minor incidents, major sportsmanship, I think. And so regarding the penalties, we do have Andy with 3, Apex Agent with 3, Dragon Pengus 3, Velocity Mick with 6 seconds. So Sayo, if Sayo can keep up the pace, can try closing that gap all the way to the end, could possibly look for a P4. Andy, who is 19 seconds ahead of Velocity Mick there, holding a pretty good gap, keeping it consistent on the track. Does have Velocity Mick with 5 lap old hard compounds, Andy with 2 lap old hard compounds. So curious to see if Sayo's able to do anything, but looks like our closing gap is still between Apex Agent and Sayo. Oh, and as I switch over to Apex Agent almost losing the car there. Autron now picking up a 3-second penalty. And locking up quite a bit right there. And unfortunately, he's going to lose that time behind of the Ferrari, so it's gonna drop him back quite a bit. We do have MacT who is leading the race comfortably. Fate, who was actually doing a really good job on his debut race here today. Would be a phenomenal result to see him on the podium. Velocity Mick as well. However, looks like Andy's is increasing that gap now. We're 20 seconds ahead of the Aston Martin. And we do have Mini Tony with the flap open, gets the overtake done on Dragon Pengus, now up to 7th. So Mini Tony saying that he was going to be getting lapped in this race. Look at him go in 7th at the moment. And we did have Andy who picked up another 6 seconds of penalties there. Sorry, another 3 seconds. So that's 6 seconds in total. Ooh, Dragon Pengus going a little bit wide right there. I wonder if that was the track limits, but still keeping the car on the track. Does have the DRS on Mini Tony. We do have Apex Agent who has just pit. Ooh, and Dragon Pengus going a tad bit wide right there, and I think that's going to lose him even more time behind of the Alpine. I do want to briefly mention, I don't think we'll be having a battle soon. Yeah, I do want to include that we are taking into suggestions. I don't know if you've heard in the other 2 streams, we are taking into suggestion our new format of choosing driver of the day. So admins and commentators are going to be looking through the race, looking to see who showed plenty of racecraft, plenty of comebacks, a phenomenal performance to watch, enough to really, deserve the spotlight. So we will be choosing 3 driver of the day candidates and letting the division actually vote for who they think deserved it. And yeah, honestly, I think MacT definitely want to really suggest from all the way to last up in first. Not really a surprise, but still a phenomenal performance by him, getting those overtakes done nice and easily. I would say Sayo as well, probably another candidate. Up 5 positions, had a little bit of a rough start. Dragon Peng is cutting the corner, picking up a 3-second penalty there. And still thinking over the 3rd candidate, but if any of the viewers also want to include their opinions, then that is more than welcome. And now even more penalties falling down. So our Manson picking up a 3-second penalty. So we only have a few who have not picked up one. Looks like Mini Tony is leaving Dragon Pengus in the dust. So Dragon Pengus struggling a tad bit. They're actually on equal tires, but yeah, it looks like Dragon Peng is struggling a little bit more than Mini Tony. So now Mini Tony over 2 seconds ahead of the Haas. And Velocity Mick picking up another 3-second penalty. So that is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, 9 seconds of penalties. And so Sayo is within that penalty gap. As I mentioned earlier, looking for a possible P4 finish. Mini Tony, if I'm not mistaken, will probably actually still be within that reach. So Mini Tony can be looking for a top 5 finish. If he could keep it consistent and try reducing that gap ahead of him. Now, it looks like the only difference between the tires between Velocity Mick and Sayo. Sayo with 4 lap younger tires compared to the Aston Martin. Ricky Stenicki now picking up another 3-second penalty. Actually, no, that is his first 3-second penalty. Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, wait a minute, there's 5 drivers. Yeah, Ricky Stenicki joining the penalty party. It looks like Antron picking up another one as well. Keeping an eye on the gap, so Sayo really eating up that time, and now less than 4 seconds behind of the Aston Martin of Velocity Mick, who has that 9 second of penalties. Mini Tony, if my math is mathing, that is he's about 7-8 seconds behind of Velocity Mick. So, like I mentioned before, can definitely get that top 5 finish. And so we do have less than 10 laps remaining, and I will say, even for a small group, it has been quite. There have been quite a number of battles, especially in the middle pack, and a lot of respectable racing, especially in that first corner. Honestly, I get a heart attack every time I see these drivers go through the first turn. And now Dragon Peng is picking up even more penalties. That is 3 seconds, 9 seconds in total for him. So we do have Apex Agent, who is closing in on the V-Carb of our Manson. Both of them with 3 seconds of penalties. So it's a fair fight for whoever can get the attack done. And it does look like we have Mac T, who has chosen to pit, where he did pit earlier for the hard compounds, now switching over to the mediums. Ooh, Apex Agent a little bit wiggly there on the exit, but still now closing the gap ahead of him. So now less than a second behind of our Manson. So there are still about 8 laps remaining for the session. Curious to see how Apex Agents' mediums are able to hold on till the end, but he is closing in quite a bit on our Manson. Does have the DRS and is going to close in a little bit more. Doesn't have a lot of battery, but enough to really use some in the future. And so now Apex right behind our Manson here on the S's. Still less than a second behind. Is going to have the DRS in the next upcoming back straight if he keeps it like this. And still looking at the gap between Sayo and Velocity Mix. Sayo now 2.5 seconds behind of the Aston Martin. Going back to Apex Agent, he is going to have the DRS. Does get the flap open. Does have the battery. It looks like he is going to get the overtake nice and easily right there. So up to 8th now for the McLaren. Our Manson remaining right behind. And as I was mentioning earlier, Sayo now less than 3 seconds behind of Velocity Mick, who does have that 9 seconds of penalties. Mini Tony still holding on to that gap. So Mini Tony, who is on a 1 lap younger tire compared to Sayo, still maintaining the pace and can definitely look for a top 5 finish. Dragon Peng is now choosing to pit and retiring from the session. Velocity now picking up another 3-second penalty, so that is going to be 12 in total. So this has secured Mini Tony for a top 5 finish. However, of course, I don't want to commentators curse him. Or Sayo as well. Uh, and so Mac T, who had chosen to pit onto the fresh mediums, is now tailing right behind a Fate. So Mac T going for the 2-stopper, gets the fastest lap, 135.9. And looks like up behind, Velocity Meg actually wonder what happened. Now he has Sayo right on his tail. So most likely Mac T is going to be able to make the overtake done here on this next upcoming DRS straight. We will be taking a look at his teammate, who is tailing right behind of the Aston Martin. But Mac T with the flap open, getting the overtake done on the Mercedes, and right behind we do have Sayo in the Ferrari, Mac T's teammate. Closing in on the back of Velocity Mick, and ooh, Velocity Mick taking a little bit too much of that curve right there, almost losing it. So Sayo, if I were Sayo, I'd probably wait a little bit for the DRS, but ooh, Sayo almost losing the car right there, and so that is going to give Velocity Mick the position back. However, Sayo does have the DRS, does have the battery, and looks like he's going to try making the overtake on the inside, sorry, on the outside. Velocity Mick on the inside, drifting a little bit to the right there for having a little bit of contact between the two drivers. But the Ferrari remaining ahead. Got a little bit distracted by that contact, but Mini Tony staying right behind a Velocity Mix gap of penalties there. Oh, and now Sayo picking up a 3-second penalty. It's not going to do enough damage if it stays like this, but yeah, Velocity Mick having to keep the car on the track. I think is the most important part on this circuit. Keep it within the lines, but yeah, both of the Ferrari drivers doing a really good job to climb up the grid. Sayo, I think, might actually be my one of my driver of the day candidates, especially on his debut race. So Mac T picking up again the fastest lap of 135.0. And looks like Sayo has pushed out Velocity Mick from the DRS over a second now ahead of him, a second and a half ahead of him. Velocity Mick might be struggling a little bit more considering he does have 4-lap older tires compared to him. And does seem to be struggling a little bit. Mini Tony closing the gap as well. Does see Velocity Mick up ahead. And so pit stops, I do think we only had oh, we had two drivers who did the two stop. Mac T, Apex agent, who was unfortunately forced to do so after the lap one incident, whichever one it was. But ooh, Mini Tony going a tad bit wide in that sector one right there, but still keeping the pace. As I mentioned, still has velocity to make right ahead of him. And Fate now picking up a 3-second penalty. So only two drivers with no penalty. So that is Mac T and Mini Tony. We did only have one driver in our Tier 2 race who did not pick up a penalty, which I think is quite impressive, especially on this circuit. But like I said, I don't want to jinx anybody. And so we have less than 5 laps remaining. Mac T leading the race, 7.4 seconds ahead of Fate after having started in the back. So phenomenal race by Mac T. Andy, I think, doing a really good job to keep it consistent, even with the penalties. Has an incredible gap ahead of P4, so 35 seconds ahead of Sayo. I think we saw a number of battles that may have slowed down a couple of the drivers and pushed them out a little bit, but all the drivers doing a really good job this race, even for a small grid. Really giving a lot of battles and giving a little bit of a taste on what we're gonna see for the season. And of course, we do have in the front of our. Oh, what happened? Mac T choosing to pit again, so Mac T opting for the soft tires. Might be doing a little bit of a test run. Yeah, he does have 2 laps remaining. Probably looking to see if he could catch up to Fate. However, yeah, I'm curious to see what Mac T does, even considering the fact that they have the penalties. Alrighty, but Mac T now right on the back of Andy. Does have that fresh set of soft tires, and looks like he is going to get that overtake easily done on the McLaren there. And looks like Mini Tony now even closer to velocity make. So Mini Tony really picking up the pace right there. He does have 4 lap younger tires compared to velocity make. Going a little bit wide right there, but still keeping the car nice and steady. Trying to use that battery to close that gap, and curious to see what happens at the end. I wouldn't put so much into battling, especially considering velocity make does have that penalty, but like I mentioned, these drivers really like to have wheel-to-wheel racing, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see some. Oh, and velocity make almost losing the car right there, but now keeping the car straight. So Mini Tony less than a second behind of velocity make. He is going to have the DRS on this next upcoming straight. Alrighty, so 2 laps remaining, this lap and the next lap. Mac T 6.2 seconds behind of the Mercedes of Fate. Curious to see if he's able to close that gap and try going for that win. I think he's doing a little bit of a test battle for himself. We'll be looking forward to the season when he has MK7 Hitch and Moikuli to battle with. But Mini Tony now within the DRS of Velocity Mick once again. Mini Tony with the flap open with the battery is able to get the move done and moves himself into 5th. So Mini Tony, one of our few drivers who has yet to pick up a penalty, is defending against the Aston Martin. Velocity Mix trying to defend that position. So both of the drivers, a little bit of a side-by-side battling right there, but Mini Tony having the upper hand, staying ahead. Ooh, a little bit of contact between the Aston Martin there and Mini Tony, but Mini Tony doing a really good job to keep the car stable. Velocity Mick is going to have the DRS, however, not enough battery to really. Ooh, and looks like he is going to overshoot it, and Mini Tony saying, nope, your mistake, and going for the switchback and stays ahead. So really good jump by Mini Tony to keep calm right there in that situation. In my opinion, those are the best overtakes. It's always nice for the driver to make a mistake and you to get a bit of an advantage from that. But Mini Tony staying in 5th. However, he is going to have Velocity Mick uh, right behind. We do have Fate, who has crossed the line, however, did have that 3-second penalty, and so Mac T is going to have that victory for this race. Mini Tony still remaining right ahead of Velocity Mick. Velocity Mick, not enough battery to do anything. Alrighty, so Mini Tony and Velocity Mick going around the final corner. Mini Tony staying ahead and finishing in the top 5. Apex Agent coming out of nowhere. Velocity Mick really losing multiple positions. So Apex Agent and R. Manson gaining position right there. And we do have Autron and Ricky Stanicki who are still finishing up here in sector 3. Autron who has just crossed the line. Ricky Stanicki going around the final corners. And so it looks like that is our race here in COTA with our Division 1 group. And honestly, even for just 11 drivers, unfortunate for Relativity, who just EA wasn't letting him join. Mamu, who overslept. And the Yuppie, I do wonder what happened to the Yuppie. That's actually really strange that he didn't show up. So, do hope all is well. But honestly, for just 11 drivers, has been a really, really good race. Lots of overtakes and lots of action happening at the same time. But anyways, our grid for the preseason, we have Mac T for the win. No surprise right there. Also getting the fastest lap, 134.3. Sharing the podium with Mac T, we have Fate in the Mercedes on his debut, doing a really good job to really establish himself on the grid, and really looking forward to seeing what he does for the rest of the season. In 3rd, we have Andy in the McLaren. Very unfortunate for him, losing a couple positions there, but still a really good result. But from P4, we have Sayo, Mini Tony P5. Really great job for Mini Tony right there. Apex Agent P6, Armatson 7th, Velocity Mech 8th, Ultron 9th, Ricky Stenicki 10th, and Dragon Pengus, our only DNF, retiring in the pit lane after a couple after a couple of laps. And Relativity actually now able to join into the session now that it's over. So that's actually quite hilarious. But yeah, no, we do appreciate all the drivers who join in, even if it's just preseason. It's just for fun. It's just to really get a taste of what's to come for the rest of the season. Um, Looking forward to seeing all the drivers back on the grid, and yeah, very very excited for the rest of the season. We do have our No Assist Division 2 group on Wednesday night. Uh, so that should be a really good race. A lot of the drivers learning the Gnosis environment, some of them looking to improve. So yeah, absolutely looking forward to this. And if anybody needs any questions on how to join, we do have our Discord channel on our YouTube description, so feel free to join in. You can join, always welcoming new drivers. Um, but yeah, everybody stay tuned for our Wednesday race. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys then.